Have you ever wondered why some people become victims of crime? For the longest time, the answer to that question focused almost entirely on the victim themselves. But what if the real answer isn't about the person at all, but about the situation? Today, we are diving into the fascinating evolution of victimology, a field of study that has totally changed how we understand crime.
So it really does all start with this one seemingly simple question. But trust me, criminologists and sociologists have been wrestling with it for decades. And their answers, well, they've changed dramatically over time. And that change tells us a whole lot about how we think about things like responsibility, vulnerability, and even just pure opportunity.
Okay, so in the early days of victimology, the scientific lens was pointed squarely, and I mean squarely, at the victim. The core idea back then was that something about the person, maybe their personality, their choices, their very nature, played a really big part in them becoming a victim in the first place.
And there were three main pioneers who really shaped this early way of thinking. You had Mendelssohn, who actually created categories for victims based on how much he thought they were to blame. Then there was von Hentig, who was looking for specific traits that made someone a more likely target. And Wolfgang, he even suggested that some victims might unconsciously contribute to their own harm. Now, these ideas are definitely controversial today, but they really did lay the groundwork for the entire field.
All of this led to this really provocative concept called victim precipitation. And the idea here is that a victim's actions could, in theory, provoke the crime. It's a framework that, for good reason, has been heavily criticized over the years for sort of shifting the blame. But it was, without a doubt, a cornerstone of early victimology.
So what did this look like in practice? Well, these thinkers created what they called typologies, basically categories of victims. Mendelssohn's scale, for instance, went all the way from completely innocent to voluntary. Von Hentig pointed to what he called vulnerable types, like the depressive or the wanton. This was their attempt to create a scientific system for classifying victims based on who they were.
But as time went on, researchers started to see the problems with focusing so much on the victim's character. It just felt incomplete. It didn't really explain why two people with similar personalities could end up with completely different outcomes. So a new question started to bubble up, one that would shift the focus entirely.
And this slide right here shows that huge shift perfectly. The question literally changed from what is it about the victim's character to what is it about the situation? And let me tell you, that was a revolutionary change in perspective. We're moving from analyzing the person to analyzing the entire context of the event.
So this brand new question led to some incredibly powerful modern theories. We're going to walk through three of the most influential models, and they all focus on the interaction between people, the environment they're in, and, believe it or not, their everyday routines.
First up is a model from David Luckenbill. He suggested that a lot of violent crimes aren't just one-sided attacks. He saw them as a situated transaction, almost like a dangerous social dance where two people escalate a conflict together, step by step.
So here's how it plays out, according to Luckenbill. It all starts with some kind of affront, a stray comment, a weird look. Somebody takes it as a personal insult, and they feel like they have to save face, so they retaliate. The other person refuses to back down, and just like that, both people are committed to the conflict. The battle begins, and tragically, it all culminates in violence. It's this step-by-step escalation, driven entirely by the interaction itself.
Okay, so building on this idea that situational factors are key, we have the threefold model, developed by Benjamin and Master. This one gives us a really useful way to think about risk by breaking it down into three distinct components. So this model points to three types of factors that can come together to create risk. First, you have precipitating factors. These are actions that can trigger a crime. Then, there are attracting factors. These are characteristics that make a target seem appealing. And finally, vulnerability factors. These are conditions that just make a target an easier mark. The idea is, when these three things intersect, the risk of victimization goes way up. And that brings us to what is maybe the most influential modern theory of them all, routine activity theory. Now, this was developed by Cohen and Felsen, and it argues that crime isn't some crazy, unusual event. Nope. Instead, it's a product of our completely normal, everyday lives and routines.
So, for a crime to happen, you first need what's called a motivated offender. It's exactly what it sounds like. This is simply someone who is ready and willing to commit a crime.
Second, you have to have a suitable target. Now, this could be a person, sure, but it could also be an object, a car, a house, a laptop. It's anything that the offender sees as valuable, vulnerable, or just easy to get. And third, you need the absence of a capable guardian.
Now, a guardian isn't just a police officer. It could be a locked door, a nosy neighbor, a bright streetlight, or a security camera. It's basically anything or anyone that might make that offender think twice.
So, the formula is almost shockingly simple. You get a motivated offender, a suitable target, and the absence of a guardian all in the same time and place, and you've got yourself an opportunity for crime. This theory powerfully shows that crime is so often a product of opportunity, not just someone's character.
So, what a journey, right? We've gone from theories that were hyper-focused on a person's character to these modern models that analyze the entire situation. And this isn't just some academic debate. This evolution has huge real-world implications.
This quote really just sums it all up perfectly. The science evolved to look more closely at, quote, the environment, the interaction, and the daily routines that bring victims and offenders together. That shift from analyzing people in isolation to analyzing situations where people connect is the whole story here.
So what's the big takeaway from all this? Well, if crime is really about situations, then that means we have the power to change those situations, right? We can design safer spaces, we can use better security, we can build stronger communities. This shift in focus from blame to prevention, that is the true legacy here. It's empowering.
So I'll leave you with this to think about. How does this shift in perspective change how you view your own safety? What situations in your daily life, in your routine, could maybe be made just a little bit safer? By understanding the power of the situation, we can all play a role in creating a safer world. Thanks so much for joining us.